Hi. My name's Tessa, I'm 31, and I think I ruined the only real thing that ever felt like home. I haven't slept right in weeks. Food tastes like paper. I talk to people at work, I smile, I even laugh sometimes, but inside I'm unraveling. And I know why. Because he found out. Because I let it happen. Because I couldn't stop myself. 7 years. 7 full years of love, laughter, silence, arguments, forgiveness, sex, secrets. 7 years of Ben. And somehow I ended up in his brother's bed. I can't even say it without feeling my throat close. But I'm not going to make excuses. I just want to explain. Maybe if I speak it out loud, it'll feel less like a nightmare that never ends. Ben was my person. You know that feeling when someone touches you and it just fits? That was us. When we first met, he couldn't keep his hands off me. Pulling me close in elevators. Whispering ridiculous things in my ear during dinners with friends. Texting me from across the room just to say, I want you now. It was magnetic. We were magnetic. But things don't stay electric forever. I know that. Life happens. Work stress. Family pressure. And slowly, subtly, we became roommates with benefits. The kind of benefits that felt more like rituals than passion. I started noticing it about a year ago. The way he'd kiss me goodnight like he was clocking out. Or when we'd cuddle on the couch, and he'd absent-mindedly scroll his phone while my head rested on his chest. Still touching, but it felt like I was begging for warmth he wasn't giving. One night stands out. We'd just come home from a friend's engagement party. Everyone had been asking us, when's it your turn? And Ben had smiled through clenched teeth. I didn't press it. We got home and I tried to lighten the mood, put on the playlist we used to dance to in the kitchen. I wrapped my arms around him, swayed a little, kissed his neck. He sighed. Not the kind that says, I want you. The kind that says, I wish you'd stop. He kissed me finally. But it was brief. Obligatory. Like checking a box. And when I tried to hold him afterward, he said, Tess, I'm really tired. That was the moment. Right there. It's stupid, isn't it? One small night, one small rejection. But it cracked something inside me. I realized I couldn't remember the last time he looked at me like I was his. Like he wanted me just because I was me. And that's when the distance started to fill with silence. With overthinking. With wondering if I was still desirable. If I was still seen. Enter Daniel. Ben's younger brother. Too charming. Too available. Too dangerous. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back then I was still holding on. Still trying to fix whatever had gone dull between Ben and me. Still hoping that if I just loved him a little harder, he'd feel it again. That we'd feel it again. I just didn't realize how far I'd already drifted. And how close the edge really was. Ben's a firefighter. Has been since before we met. He's the guy who runs into burning buildings while others run out. Brave, dependable, stoic in a way that always made me feel safe, until it didn't. We live in a small townhouse just outside Atlanta. Our bedroom is upstairs, windows face the trees, and the smell of pine always leaks in, especially after it rains. It used to feel like a haven. Now it feels like a stage. The tension started in whispers. Small, everyday things. I'd ask him how his shift was, and he'd say, same as always. I'd mention how I've been feeling off, and he'd kiss me on the forehead and say, go lie down, baby. Always gentle. Always distant. And the strange part? He still touched me. His hands never stopped finding my waist when I walked past him. He'd still kiss my neck while I cooked, run his palm along my thigh when we watched TV. But something was missing. That look, the one that says, I'm here, with you, not just beside you, was gone. I remember this one morning clearly. He had just come back from a 24-hour shift. Smelled like smoke and sweat, his uniform half hanging off him, eyes bloodshot. He dropped his bag, kicked off his boots, and walked straight to me like gravity was pulling him. He kissed me hard. Deep. His hands gripping my face like he hadn't seen me in years. And I just stood there. I didn't kiss him back. Not really. I froze even though I'd missed him. Even though I'd been aching for him. When he pulled back, he searched my face for something. Tess? What's wrong? And I didn't know how to say it without sounding cruel. How do you tell the man who risks his life every day that his touch feels like a wall instead of a bridge? So I lied. Nothing. I'm just tired. He wrapped his arms around me, pressing his cheek to mine. Then let me take care of you, he whispered. And that's the thing, he thought he was taking care of me. With touch. With sex. With warm arms and quiet strength. But I didn't need strong. I needed soft. I needed someone to see my unraveling and not just hold me, but hear me. Later that day, I tried to talk to him. I told him I felt disconnected, that I missed us, that sometimes it felt like we were pretending to be close, when really we were orbiting each other like strangers with shared laundry. He frowned. But I do love you. I show you all the time. Ben, I said gently. Sometimes I feel like your body is here, but your heart's still at the station. He looked genuinely hurt. You're saying I don't care about you? No. I'm saying, I need more than hands. I need words. I need you to see me when I'm not saying anything. He sat back, shoulders tight. You think I have room for all that after what I see out there every day? And there it was, the wall. That night, we still had sex. It wasn't rough, it wasn't angry. But when it was over, I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, and he just turned over and went to sleep. I didn't feel held. I felt hollowed. And I couldn't tell if it was because he didn't love me anymore, or because I was already slipping into someone else's gravity. I don't know when my body started lying, when my skin stopped reacting the way it used to, when a kiss turned into a signal for dread instead of desire. It wasn't always like this. Ben used to light me up. His hands could make my knees buckle. A single look across a room could undo me. But now I flinch at the warmth I used to chase. Last Tuesday, he got home early. I was on the couch in sweats, half watching some reality show, eating pretzels straight from the bag. He walked in smiling, that smile that used to mean I missed you, now it just made me tense. He kicked off his boots, came over, and leaned down to kiss my temple. His lips lingered. You smell like salt and sadness, he said playfully, nuzzling into my neck. I gave a half-hearted smile. Pretzels. He sat behind me, pulling me between his legs like he used to. Strong arms around my waist. His chin resting on my shoulder. I used to melt here. This used to be my favorite place in the world. Now I felt trapped. Not by him, not exactly, but by what wasn't being said. He kissed the side of my face, then again, softer this time. You good, baby? MMHM, I mumbled, chewing. You sure? I nodded, but I didn't meet his eyes. His hands slid up under my shirt, resting on my stomach. Warm. Familiar. But instead of soothing me, I stiffened. I didn't want to push him away. I didn't want to hurt him. So I forced myself to lean back into his chest to make it seem normal. But every second felt heavier than the last. You smell good, he whispered into my hair. You always do. I gave a soft laugh, trying to fake comfort. Sweatpants and stress. New perfume. He chuckled, and one hand slid lower, fingers brushing beneath the waistband of my pants. I tensed. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and just didn't know what it meant. He kissed the back of my neck. Slow, patient. We've barely touched in weeks, he murmured. I know. I miss you. I know. His hand paused. He was waiting for a yes, for me to turn around. For something. I turned around and kissed him softly. Just lips on lips. I wanted to want it. I willed myself to feel something. Passion, hunger, anything. But all I felt was pressure. Obligation. A tightness in my chest. He deepened the kiss. I felt his hand on my lower back, pulling me closer. I let him, but I wasn't there. I was watching us from the outside, like actors in a scene I didn't audition for. He broke the kiss, breathing a little heavier. Come upstairs, he said, voice low. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I looked at him, kind eyes, tired eyes, good eyes. Eyes that used to be my entire world. And all I could do was shake my head. I'm not feeling great, I whispered. His jaw twitched. Tessa. I'm trying. I know. He got up and went to the kitchen, silent. I sat there, frozen in the same position, staring at the muted TV. Why was this happening? Why couldn't I just fall back into him? Why did it feel like every time he reached out, I was getting further away? Why did I feel like a stranger in my own skin? My heart pounded. Not from love. Not from lust. From guilt. From grief. From confusion. I wrapped the blanket tighter around me and curled into the corner of the couch. And the only thought that kept echoing in my mind was, why does everything have to turn into sex? It was supposed to be a quiet dinner. Just the two of us. Ben had made reservations at this Italian place we used to go to when we first started dating, red wine, tiny candles on the tables, pasta portions the size of my palm. It used to feel cozy, intimate. But as soon as we sat down, I felt it, that weight in the air. Like we were both pretending to be versions of ourselves we hadn't been in years. The waiter came. Ben ordered the bottle we used to get. He even smiled the same way he used to when he caught me looking at him. I thought this might be good for us, he said gently, pouring the wine. A little reset. I nodded, trying to play along. Yeah, it's nice. He reached across the table and took my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles in slow, affectionate circles. You felt far away lately. I looked down. My fingers twitched under his, but I didn't pull away. I know, I said softly. I'm sorry. He frowned. Don't apologize. I just want to understand. I stared at the flickering candle between us. Words bubbled in my chest. I feel invisible. I feel numb. I feel like I'm drowning in a version of love that doesn't see me anymore. But they stuck in my throat, too swollen with guilt. So instead, I said the only thing that felt safe. I'm just tired. Work's been a lot. He gave me this look, half empathy, half skepticism. It's not just work, Tess. You've barely looked at me for weeks. I'm looking at you now. Barely, he said, not unkindly. Just honestly. The waiter brought our food. We both picked at our plates. I forced a few bites of gnocchi even though my stomach was tight. Then he said it. I've been thinking about our anniversary party next month. 7 years, that's something to celebrate. Something inside me snapped. I dropped my fork. The clatter was louder than I meant. Heads turned. I didn't care. Celebrate, I said, too sharp. He blinked. Yeah. You want to throw a party for a relationship that's been dying for a year? Ben's expression shifted. Brows pinched, shoulders tense. Tessa, what the hell? I leaned in, voice low and trembling. You think planning a party is going to fix this? That pasta and wine and pretending we're still happy will magically reset everything. I'm trying, he said, voice rising. You shut down and I'm doing everything I can to reach you. You touch me like that's enough. My voice cracked. But I don't want your hands, Ben. I want you to look at me and actually see what's happening. He stared at me, stunned. His mouth opened, then closed. For a second, I thought he might yell. But he didn't. He just sat back, hurt bleeding across his face. Wow! I felt tears sliding down my cheeks before I realized I was crying. I'm sorry, I whispered, reaching for my napkin. God, I didn't mean to do this here. Ben didn't say a word. He picked up his glass and drank the rest of his wine in one slow swallow. The silence between us was deafening. That night, when we got home, he slept on the couch. And I sat in the shower until the water ran cold, my knees pressed to my chest, sobbing silently. I hated myself in that moment. Hated how I exploded. Hated how he looked at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. Because maybe I wasn't. Maybe I really was becoming someone else. Someone who felt more seen in the glances of his brother than in the arms of the man she'd built a life with. And that shame? It clung to me like smoke. Thick. Heavy. Impossible to wash off. The house got quiet after that night. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. No music in the kitchen. No spontaneous kisses on the way to the laundry room. Just two people moving around each other like shadows, each unsure who should speak first. Ben didn't yell. He never does. That's not his way. But the next morning, when I walked into the kitchen and found him already dressed for his shift, pouring coffee in silence, it hit me harder than shouting ever could. He looked up, nodded slightly like I was a neighbor, not his girlfriend of 7 years, and walked past me. No kiss. No words. Not even to be safe. The days turned into weeks. We went through the motions, shared groceries, rotated laundry, kept the house in order. But something essential had cracked between us. Every time I passed by him, I wanted to reach out. Just put a hand on his back or brush my fingers against his arm. I wanted to say, I'm sorry again. I'm lost. I don't know how to come back. But I couldn't. Because the truth is, I didn't know if I wanted to come back. Not fully. I'd catch glimpses of him sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands after a long shift. Eating dinner in silence, eyes fixed on his plate like it held answers. Staring at the TV without seeing it. He looked like a man who'd been gutted. But not by anger. By grief. And that's what broke me. Because I knew I had a hand in it. Ben isn't cruel. He never was. He just didn't know how to meet me in the places I was unraveling. And I hadn't known how to ask him to try. One evening, I heard him on the phone with his sister. His voice was low, rough. No, I'm not fine. I don't know what the hell we are anymore. I don't even recognize her. And yeah, I miss her. But I'm not gonna beg someone to love me the way I deserve. I can't do that to myself. He didn't know I was standing in the hallway, clutching the sleeve of my sweater like a lifeline. I pressed my back against the wall after he hung up. My chest was tight with something between shame and longing. He was right. He shouldn't have to beg. He deserved more than what I was giving him. But wasn't I allowed to want more, too? I missed the way he used to look at me like I was the only thing that mattered. I missed how we'd stay up late whispering dreams. I missed him. But I didn't know if I missed us. And every time I thought about fighting to fix it, this sharp voice in my head whispered, "You've already let someone else touch the part of you he couldn't reach. Even if it was only once. Even if it was a mistake." One night, I stood in our bedroom doorway and just watched him sleep. He was curled on his side, his back to my side of the bed. He used to snore, just a little. Not anymore. He looked small. Fragile, almost. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't the villain in this story. He was just a man who loved me the only way he knew how. And I was a woman who drifted away not because I stopped loving him, but because I stopped knowing how to stay. I crawled into bed, careful not to wake him. I lay on my side, an ocean of space between us. I stared at the ceiling for hours, one question looping over. "Ben, how long, Tessa?" I stood, shaking. "It was once. Just once. It was stupid and reckless and he laughed. "Just once." But it was sharp, humorless. "Wow. Of course it was Daniel." My heart was pounding so loud I thought I might throw up. I didn't plan it. I wasn't looking for it. I was just empty. And he saw it. "And I didn't," he said, voice low and cracked. "You think I didn't notice you slipping away? I tried to tell you. I tried, Ben. So many times." He stared at me and I saw the moment something in him broke. "You could have left," he whispered. "But you stayed. And you lied." I didn't know what to say. There was nothing left to defend. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just grabbed his pillow and a blanket, walked downstairs, and slept on the couch. The next morning, the anniversary party was still on. I begged him to cancel. He didn't. I think he wanted to make me feel it. And God, I did. Everyone came. Friends, co-workers, his captain, my sister. Music played. Toasts were made. It looked like love from the outside. Until Ben tapped his spoon against a glass. He stood beside me, hand resting lightly on my back. To anyone watching, we looked picture perfect. Then he said, 7 years ago, I met the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, and I still love her. But I don't think I know her anymore. The room stilled. She's been slipping through my fingers for a long time now, and I kept holding on, thinking maybe I could pull her back. His voice didn't waver. But some people don't want to be saved. Sometimes love isn't enough. Not when trust is gone. He didn't look at me, just raised his glass, took a sip, and walked out of the room. No one said a word, and I just stood there, frozen, exposed, humiliated. I left 20 minutes later, quietly. No goodbyes. That night, I sat alone on our bed, knees pulled to my chest. The house echoed with silence. I expected him to stay gone. But at 3 a.m., I heard the door open. Soft footsteps. He came in, set his keys down, and walked to the edge of the bed. He didn't speak, just stood there for a moment, then leaned down and pressed a kiss to my forehead. It was the saddest kiss I've ever felt. Then he walked out again. Back to the couch. Back to the distance. That was the last night we lived under the same roof. I don't know what you're expecting me to say. That I regret it? That I wish I'd chosen differently? That I wish I never touched his brother? Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. It's hard to separate guilt from truth when they're both sitting in your chest, clawing at the same space. What I know for sure is this: I loved Ben. I still do. But I lost myself inside that love. It's funny, no one talks about the grief that happens before the breakup. That quiet, slow ache you feel when someone is lying beside you but doesn't see you anymore. When the touches keep coming but none of them reach. When you start asking yourself if you're crazy for feeling empty even when everything looks fine on paper. Ben touched my skin. Daniel touched my sadness. That's the part one don't like admitting. Daniel wasn't the answer. He was a symptom. A desperate gasp for breath when I felt like I was suffocating in my own silence. And yes, it was wrong. I crossed a line I can't uncross. I shattered something sacred. But it also forced me to look at myself. Really look. I thought desire was about heat. About kisses in the dark and tangled bedsheets. But real desire, the kind that feeds the soul, it starts with being seen. With being understood. With someone saying, I feel you even when you haven't said a word. Ben loved me with everything he had. I believe that. But the way he loved wasn't always the way I needed. And instead of asking for more, loudly, clearly, I whispered my needs until they died in my throat. I blamed him for not hearing what I never said. And I carried that resentment like it gave me permission to look elsewhere. Didn't. I think the hardest part of growing up is realizing that love isn't always enough to hold two people together. You can love someone with your whole heart and still break theirs. You can be hurting and still be the one who causes pain. After the party, Ben moved out. Quietly. No big scene. Just folded shirts. Labeled boxes. A drawer left empty like a missing tooth. He hugged me before he left. Held me so tight I almost said stay. But I didn't. Because we both knew it wouldn't change anything. We needed more than love. We needed honesty, communication, effort in the places that mattered before they fell apart. I don't talk to Daniel anymore. Whatever passed between us, it was never real enough to survive the guilt. Sometimes I still get texts from Ben. Simple ones. Hope you're okay. Saw your favorite movies getting a sequel. Once he even sent a photo of our old cat curled up on his lap. I don't know if we'll ever talk about what happened again. I don't know if we should. But here's what I've learned, what I hope someone out there hears before it's too late. You don't lose love all at once. You lose it in the spaces between what's said and what's meant. In the long silences. In the forced smiles. In the kisses that feel like check marks instead of choices. If something feels wrong, say it. If you're starving for connection, scream it. Don't wait for someone else to save you from your loneliness. Because the truth? No one can fix the emptiness you refuse to name. And if you don't speak it, someone else will. Or worse, you'll answer it in the wrong arms. 2.